Socrates who laid the foundation of Western moral philosophy. He is the first philosopher in the entire Western world who thought that it is important to be moral. Do you understand that? And Socrates is not pinning morality on God or the commandments of God. Remember the Euthyphro dilemma, in which Socrates says, is pious because it is pleasant to the gods, or is it pleasant to the gods because it is pious? So obviously you can understand that he is not pinning morality on an almighty divine power or the commandments issued by such power, but is having an independent opinion about morality. Also, remember, Socrates was the very antithesis of the sophists of his day. And who were the sophists? The sophists were those who believed that knowledge can be acquired, it can be stored, and it can be transmitted. Okay. And Socrates believed that we must always pursue wisdom, but we must know that we cannot have all of it. Why? Because wisdom is something which is always out of our reach, but we should nevertheless try to attain wisdom in our life. Okay. And Socrates also says that the only thing I know is that I know nothing. Remember the statement Socrates makes in the light of the statement which was made by the famous oracle at the shrine of Apollo, when he said that of all men alive, who is the most wisest? Socrates. Socrates says that the only thing I know is that I know nothing. But this has created the Socratic paradox. Remember, how does Socrates knows entirely about his ignorance? It means, how does Socrates knows that he knows nothing? But nevertheless, keeping that thing aside, we understand that Socrates has contributed majorly to philosophical understanding, especially moral philosophical understanding, through his method, which is known as the Elenchus. Now, what was Elenchus? I hope you recall. It was a cooperative, argumentative dialogue. It was a cooperative, argumentative dialogue. And what happens in the Elenchus or in the Socratic method of inquiry? What actually happens is that you put forward an assertion, and then people test that assertion by throwing counter assertions. These counter assertions prove the inadequacy of your original assertion or highlight that the original assertion is completely useless. Whatever the case may be, the original assertion is over a period of time continuously revived, and it is taken to such a stage where it becomes almost irrefutable. And there Socrates claims that at that point it is closest to truth, though it is not synonymous to truth, but it is closest to truth, or it is closest to wisdom. Do you understand that? This Socratic method, Elenchus, is used in classrooms as well as law schools today to elicit thinking. What kind of thinking? Critical thinking. Do you understand that? So this is what we learned in the last class while we were closing our affairs with respect to Socrates. Okay. But the most important event of Socrates' life is his trial and execution. So that will be the starting of our ethical discussion in this class today. Okay. So give a heading: Socrates trial. Socrates trial and execution. Now drop your pen and look here very carefully. Okay. Remember, Socrates was the great fly. Great fly means that he would roam from one place to another place, forcing people to go into a cooperative, argumentative dialogue. And Socrates would just listen to this dialogue, and he said, remember, he said that I am not a theorist, nor am I a teacher, I am a midwife. And my entire aim is to bring the theories of others to life. Like the midwife brings others' children to life, Similarly, my aim is to bring the theories of others to life, but in order to do so successfully, I must have some knowledge about philosophy, and that's why I have some knowledge about philosophy, but I also know that the only thing I know is that I know nothing. So that's what Socrates claims. Now you see that it was the year 399 BCE when Socrates was executed. And what was his crime? Why a man of that stature, why such a philosophical giant is being treated or manhandled so badly by a society? Socrates lived in Athens, and at that time the entire Greek world was divided into city-states. Like Athens was one city-state. Athens had democracy in place. And Socrates was a part of the Athenian society. Socrates' pursuit of wisdom brought him in direct conflict with the intelligentsia of Athens, or the people who wielded power in Athens, the political class, the economic class, the social aristocracy. Socrates came in conflict more often than not with them because of his pure pursuit of wisdom and because of his love for finding out the truth. He would roam from one place to another place and he would ask tangible questions. The questions, the answers to which will determine which way the society is heading towards. In fact, whatever he would say will strike the fundamentals of any civilized society. And that's why he would regularly come in conflict with the Athenian intelligentsia and those who were wielding power in the Athenian society. Okay. And it was alleged that Socrates has ridiculed Athens. Socrates has shown a kind of ridicule towards the Athenian intelligentsia, Athenian power structure, social structure, and has also criticized Athenian democracy and religion. This is what was the allegation over Socrates. So Socrates was alleged of two important things. One was that he has not been pious towards the Athenian religion or the gods of the Athenian society, or in simple words, that he has shown impiety. Impiety means lack of reverence towards Athenian religion and Athenian society. Do you understand that? And the second allegation over Socrates was that he has corrupted the minds of the youth. भड़का रहे हैं वो जितने भी youth हैं उनको अपनी अपनी बातें कहकर. ठीक है. So these were the two major charges which were leveled upon Socrates. Some believe that Socrates' trial and execution was actually the result of a political infighting. However, the real reason appears to be the Socrates came in direct conflict with the Athenian intelligentsia, the Athenian power holders, or the political and social leaders of the Athenian society. They came under the direct attack of Socrates' kind of logic. Okay, so whatever Socrates used to say in his public discourse, they would directly attack the Athenian political and social leaders. In fact, some of the speeches made by Socrates made the Athenian political and social leaders look like absolute fools before the Athenian people, because they had claimed that they know everything. And when Socrates highlighted that the knowledge that they are claiming is nowhere near to what wisdom is and what truth is, they appeared like fools before the Athenian society, and the Athenian public had a large laugh on these political leaders and social leaders of the Athenian time. But they did not like Socrates. Obviously, there was a reason not to like Socrates, because Socrates was asking some tangible questions from them. What is justice? What is democracy? What kind of society you want to build? What is the role of state? What should be the duties of citizen? How a state should deal with its citizens? all these kind of tangible questions which Socrates would every now and then ask before the people and inspire them to ask these questions to their political and social leaders. These questions were not liked by those who were wielding power, because they wanted to wield power at the ignorance of the people. And when people started asking these kind of questions, they did not like it. One of the other allegation over Socrates was that Socrates has criticized Athens in the aftermath of the Peloponnesian Wars. Now, these Peloponnesian Wars were a series of wars which was fought between Athens and its arch-rival Sparta. Sparta was not a democracy, but Athens was. And Athens lost these wars terribly, and it was alleged that Socrates has criticized Athenian democracy, rather when he was actually criticizing the Athenian democratic leaders and not democracy to some extent. Although Socrates was not a big fan of democracy, he had his own reservations related to that. Altogether a new chapter, we will not go into there. But Sparta and Athens, they fought a number of wars, and Athens was defeated in these wars. These wars are known as Peloponnesian Wars, and Socrates criticized Athenian leadership and Athenian democratic structure and praised its arch-rival Sparta. At least that is what the political leaders and the social leaders said in public. The real reason, although, was that as Socrates asked tangible questions to these leaders, they appeared like fools before the Athenian public, because he was asking the fundamental questions on the basis of which a civilized society can be built, a progressive society could be built. His questions touched all aspects of life: economy, society, polity, culture, religion, etc. And that's why you see that there was a group of leadership in Athens which hated and despised Socrates. They wanted to get rid of Socrates. Therefore, Socrates was charged of two things. The first thing was impiety, and the second was corrupting the minds of the youth. These were the two charges which were leveled against Socrates. Pehla, ये कि you are not showing proper respect towards the Athenian religion. You are ridiculing the Athenian religious way of life. So that's the first charge against Socrates. Second is, with your ideas, you are corrupting the minds of the youth. You are breaking the social order in the Athenian society. Now, Socrates went to trial. Obviously, remember the Euthyphro dilemma, where he is sitting on the staircase of the Athenian court and asking Euthyphro, is pious pious because it is pleasant to the gods, or is it pleasant to the gods because it is pious? So he is awaiting his trial. So when Socrates enters the Athenian court, these are the charges which are leveled against him. Among 501 jurors who heard the case, with a narrow margin of 30 votes, Socrates was found guilty. Socrates was found guilty of both these crimes. Crimes in the eyes of those who were wielding power in the Athenian society at that time. And Socrates was given two options. First option was, go into exile, go away from Athens, never show your face back again. Second, death penalty. Socrates chose capital punishment. He chose death penalty. He did not go into exile. Now, his death has become a great philosophical message for all times, for over 2 millennia now.